I just feel like I was huffing markers.
You totally were, by the way. You
Oh
just
my
got
God, I'm like,
extra
woo!
high.
I did.
Extra high.
For those of you who are just joining us,
Which
hey,
I believe everyone is.
yeah, it's just us. Otherwise, Claire's the only one that knows I'm not actually huffing markers.
Exactly.
Um, I live in a building in Portugal that is over 100 years old, and
How
I'm on the top
charming.
floor, lucky me, of this little,
Yes.
it's like 4 stories. But I have this cute little balcony that apparently is leaking into my neighbor's apartment.
Isn't that
And
fun?
today they came and resealed it with something very smelly. And I came home and it was like being smacked in the face. So
Yeah.
we're going to try to just move through it with, as you may or may not know, I haven't said it a million times already. I am a highly sensitive person and smell so much so that my mom thought I should be a perfumer when I was a child because I reacted so much to how
Perfumier.
perfumier,
Yes.
how everything, she was like, your nose is so sensitive. But yeah, so I'm really getting challenged in that moment. But otherwise, I'm really happy to be here.
Oh, well, I'm so thrilled. I'm so thrilled. If you pass out or something, then I'll call authorities. But
But honestly, just finish out the podcast.
okay,
Maybe do a monologue. I'm sure you have
listen,
one
I
up
can
your
do it. You
sleeve.
know I can.
And
You
then
know it.
at the appropriate time, let someone know, but
Okay, when
not
I
at the
feel like
cost
I've
of the
wrapped up.
podcast. Yeah,
Okay.
wrap it up.
I will make the call when I feel it's a sufficient podcast. I love it.
Good.
I
You're
think
in
like
charge.
it's a good I think it's a good way to end the year by just like huffing markers and passing
Yeah,
out,
and me just like
right?
passing out
It's a healthy
cold.
way. Uh-huh.
Yeah, that's like a health podcast for
Hmm.
sure.
Hmm.
Yeah. I agree.
For
I
sure.
agree.
I love it.
Um, it's been a minute. When's the last time we
It's
did one of these?
been
Like
a minute.
September?
Or October because it was
October?
before I went out to LA.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
Wow. We've both had quite a year.
Can we talk about the year that we've had? It's
I can
been a lot. A
I,
lot.
it really has. I
Girl.
can confidently say this might have been one of the most challenging years of my entire life.
I confidently will agree for myself. This
Yeah,
is
for you as well.
absolutely
What a shit show, man.
what a shit show. Just highlights. You moved to Portugal,
I did, which was a high, which was definitely a
which was
highlight.
a high. You
But
fell in
then
love. You
left and right,
you know, left
left
and
and
right.
right. My favorite thing to
You
do.
business pivots,
Yep. Uh-huh.
right?
I can confidently say all of my biggest fears came to fruition, and then I
All
had to
of them.
stare them in the face
Great.
and
Uh-huh.
really visit stuff that I thought I had healed in therapy in my 20s. Healing is
Yeah.
non-linear, kids.
Oh boy, it's
Non-linear.
not.
And I swear, when you have enough tools, no children, a lot of free time, you really can get in there, get in there
Ooh, you
deep.
can sit in it.
And you, what did we see from Claire? Open
I
your
think
heart.
open my heart. I
Also,
think I also faced some of my biggest fears.
yeah. And would you say you also fell in love?
Yeah.
Yeah. How'd
Yeah.
that work out for us?
Great. I say, laughing hysterically. Well, here's what's interesting. So last night, in preparation, because we talked about that we were going to do kind of a recap of the year.
Yeah.
Which, and then in the new year, we can prep for the year to come. But this is
Yes.
more of appreciation for what we've
How
done
far
this year.
that we're alive.
How far
still.
we've come.
Heck yeah.
How we're still alive at this point.
And over here hanging on by a thread, we might pass
The marker
out at any moment.
before
Any
you pass
moment,
out
any
from chemicals.
moment.
Last night I took myself to dinner,
Yes.
which I have to laugh about because there was some tweet, Instagram, whatever, that was like, I'm going to treat myself, says the person who never doesn't treat themselves. Like, I'm always like, I took myself to dinner. but it's like,
Ooh.
when am I not? I just left the house. So, and I went with the intention, which is huge for me because I do love to order in. You know that.
You also were sick for a bit.
I've been
So
oh my
you
God, I've
have
been
been
so
in the house.
fucking
So you did,
sick.
it was a big deal.
It was very big. And the even bigger deal is that I ran errands. I came home when it was dark out, and then I left my home to go out to eat.
Whoa.
That was big. That
Whoa.
was very big. Because leaving when it's dark is to not meet anyone
in the
near to
cold
impossible.
in
the
New
cold,
York.
forget it. So it's very big. But I was like, this is important. I really want to take the time. So you had sent me a couple questions.
Yes.
So I kind of used one as a springboard, but then I just
Fabulous.
wrote.
And I love.
Really, I look back through my calendar to look at events and things that I did just as a reminder, because I can't fucking remember anything.
Which might be related to the amount of sleep that sometimes we don't get.
No, I think it's long COVID. I laugh. It could be, but I like to say it's certainly not from my choices.
No, you couldn't be doing anything wrong.
I could be doing it's because I got COVID.
Yeah.
Highlights of my year, positive highlights of my year.
Let's hear them.
Acted in a feature film.
I have a question. I just had a moment. Do we need to introduce who you are ever? Or people just know?
Oh. I don't think so.
Right? Oh my, it was funny. I just had this moment of did we just get into it? Well, Claire is the lovely
I think everyone
producer.
knows who
She's
I
a
am.
performer extraordinaire. She former current client. She's just a one-woman show, this one.
Thank
in
you.
case you're new to the podcast.
Oh, that's
and I'm the
true.
host.
A multi-hyphenate.
You're a multi-hyphenate.
Oh yeah, by the way.
Okay, sorry. Your highlights. Don't you love how professional and in order this goes? I like it. It's
my favorite part about it. As a producer, I love that. No, I like the more easy whatever better than.
We'll blame the toxins that I'm huffing over here.
I think so. I think that's a good idea, and I'll blame my illness for the last 2 weeks.
Right. The long COVID, yes.
Oh, and long COVID.
Not that.
Thank you.
That's not a real scary thing because it is.
True, it is. That is a real thing. There's a small possibility that I do have it, but I like to blame all my stupid choices, the effects of my stupid choices on that.
Right. Great.
Here and there.
All right.
Back to my highlight.
You acted in a feature film. She
acted
in
a feature film that someone asked me to be in. I didn't even audition.
She didn't even have to audition.
Didn't even
Straight
have to
offer, babes. Straight offer.
Thank you. I booked a national commercial.
Yes, she did for Pickles, and it was great.
For Pickles. I mean, granted, did it run as much as I wanted it to? No, but why are we focused on that?
And maybe they'll bring it back next year.
Maybe. You don't know.
And how many pickles did you have to eat that day, ballpark?
I couldn't count because it was going to be nauseating. But a lot. I got a lot of sodium that day. I'll say that much. I filled my quota. I did a number of production design jobs that I was very thrilled with.
Which you're great at and you love.
Which I love. I got to do intimacy coordination, which is something that I'm very excited about. This is my new focus. I'm not shifting everything, but adding to my repertoire.
Yes.
I got to do this podcast.
Yeah.
Got to do this podcast with you. A highlight. I worked on my podcast. Unfortunately, I haven't brought it back, but we're not focused on that. I did, I was working on that at the beginning of the year. On a personal note, I went on a few dates.
Should we hype it? Because it's great.
Clarify your day. You can still listen to it all.
Absolutely. It's coming back next year.
It's coming back. It's coming back. Please. Thank you. On a personal note, I went on a few dates. I made out drunkenly in a bar.
Woo!
I fell in love. I got confused. I
Same.
also went to a sex party. I went to
Woo!
a nude dinner. I've done, so I've done,
Exploratory
I,
intimacy. Oh, she
I
got a
got
tat.
a tattoo,
Yeah.
and I've decided to move across the country. So like, what a positive year.
Yeah.
Now, you can't have the positives without a lot of struggle.
And you guys, we have to understand that Claire's been in our apartment for 12 years
12 years.
and
This
never, when
studio apartment for 12 years.
when she realized that she wanted to move, she had to like whisper it to me. She didn't want to say it
I
out
did.
loud. It was
I did.
so not part of the plan. So this is like Claire breaking a really, really big pattern
Yeah.
and taking a huge leap of faith.
Huge
And before the end of the year, UCB asked you to direct.
Yeah.
I mean, you haven't done it yet, but that's
Hello,
exciting.
I have. That's so
Straight offer.
true.
Another straight offer.
Yeah. That was something. Thank you for that. Because so UCB, for those who don't know, is like the comedy institution. And prior to the pandemic, I was on house teams, like performing, which I love.
She's
And
very funny, guys. Very,
so
very.
much.
If you couldn't tell from this hilarious comedy podcast that we do,
a laugh a second, you know. But they're bringing, it's coming back. Like it closed during pandemic, everything, whatever. And so they were auditioning and and there was just a part of me that was like, and it came back after I realized I was moving, but there was also a part of me of like, would I even want to like audition and be a performer? I was like, I don't feel like I feel like I've stepped into a different direction.
Graduated.
In that I've graduated in a bit, and I was like, I think directing is more of what I want to do, and they've asked me to direct. So I'm committed to like the first show in the new year, which probably won't happen till March or end of February. But that is huge to be asked by such a comedy institution to direct a sketch show. So yeah, so thank you for that. So it feels right.
Yeah.
If you will.
When you put it that way, you've had a really an amazing year.
I have. I've had an amazing year. Okay?
Yeah, you have. You have.
I have.
No, we started in 2021. You took a bit of a break.
Mm-hmm.
Seeing your progress.
To get my mental health stable.
Yeah. The past year, the amount of growth and expansion that you've had, it's been really beautiful to watch. Really tremendous. Yeah. You've grown more in the past like year than you have in maybe the two before.
Oh, at least. Rapidly. And definitely years before that, because years before that, I think, yes, there was growth, but there was busyness.
Yeah.
And there was,
there's avoidance, right?
Avoidance. And also it's just easy to, the focus is like career and comedy for me. And like, doing stuff, doing, as opposed to going internal. And then of course we had this beautiful blessing where we all had to sit and look inward.
And that got rough for a lot of us. And
that got really rough for a lot of us.
The funniest thing is I actually had this isn't a nice thing to say because the pandemic was hard, but I felt like I had like a great pandemic.
You had a good one.
And then it ended, and then my life was like...
I feel like this year has been interesting for a lot of people, I think.
Yeah. No,
We've noticed that.
Yes, across the board. Across the board.
And I think, I was saying to my friend the other day, I feel like, obviously, 2021, we were like, okay, we're trying to figure this out. And 22 was like, wait, we can move about freely, essentially. And then I think this year has been a year where we've realized the idea of our norms are completely gone. Yeah. And who we were and what the world was a few years before is no longer. And it really set this year. I think we knew before, we're like, oh, what is normal now? But now it's like, oh no, this is for sure so much has changed and we have
Right.
to adjust for
Or we have changed so much. And like,
all of it.
do I want to keep showing up this way?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because life is too short. And
Yeah.
instead of focusing on the busyness and the career and what, like it's like,
whoa.
I love it. Listen, Amazon comes at the right time. You know what I mean?
It really does. It really
I fear
does.
that they're going to buzz again.
Oh, and you were correct. That was a double buzz for those of you that are listening. We could edit this stuff out, but why? But why?
Why did I do that?
I took another deep breath and it was a mistake.
Oh no.
Just gonna breathe lightly the rest of the time.
Please do. Please don't hurt yourself. But listen, you'll love this. Last night, and I'm a big talker today, please know. My apologies.
I'm here for it. I'm here for it.
Thank you.
Stop it. So we just did that lovely podcast with Lauren Clark yesterday.
Yes.
That got released today, which will not be today by the time we release this. But she's so sweet. She kept apologizing for talking too much and like being like, no. Guys, this is the point. We need you to talk.
That's the point of this.
So I'm gonna relay that to you.
I'm saying apologies if you had an idea of how today should go, because I'm coming in and I'm steering the ship.
It's good because apparently I'm high on markers. And
you're high.
Sort of like what was that? Some rubber cement? Remember that from like middle school? And it like smelled really intense, and it was like that's sort of what it smells like in here. Fun. Like I'm in a bottle of rubber cement.
Yeah, as soon as we're done, you got to get out of that apartment.
I know. I got to breathe outside heavily.
Yeah. So last night when I was writing, now this word we kind of laugh about for various reasons. We have an inside joke. But I do feel like the theme of this year was becoming untethered.
Oh, we do laugh about this word, don't we?
We laugh about this word. I felt like, and I was having this visual kind of at the end of last year and into the new. I had a visual of myself like really pulling to move forward. Yeah. But there was a tether holding me back. And a few. I knew of one, but there were a few. And so it was huge to cut that main one.
Yes.
Let's be honest.
It was huge.
Which had so much to do with creativity, with friendship, with career, with everything. It was a huge yes. And then what I didn't realize is that there was another very large tether to New York and to my mom. And that wasn't uncovered until I cut the other one of that friendship. Yeah. And so it's like a release. And what I also was thinking about last night is, when you have like a piece of tape and it sticks on something, you're like pulling it so hard to separate, and then you fling too much and it sticks on something else. Yeah. I feel as though that's what happened with from my first tether, from my old best friend to I do not want to call her my crush anymore. Yeah. Because it's not correct. Yeah. It's not correct. Yeah. So I think I just want to call her friend. Yeah. With a capital F.
I think what we're seeing, and I think we both really, how interesting, right? Uncovered. I really realized too, and I'll speak more about this later potentially, but relationships is a form of safety. And security, right? Yeah. So you just were repeating a pattern to feel connected, to feel safe, to feel loved, whatever it is, right? Yeah. And it makes sense when that hole is there and you have this one way of relating that helps keep you sane, that helps you emotionally regulate, that helps you, feel less lonely or whatever. You're gonna automatically, until you have a new tool, you're going to just do the same thing over and over again. This is why people,
Yeah.
have problems with food or alcohol or shopping or whatever it is. And it's not necessarily bad, but we almost
It's not
needed you
serving
to
you.
have that and have it crash and
Mhm.
burn in the way it did for you to start to break that pattern.
So, quick update,
Yeah,
because I haven't given that update on the podcast.
that's true. You have not.
The last time we talked, I had told friend
Yes.
that I had fallen for her, but
Yes.
I was no longer in love and all was well with our friendship.
Mm.
I then went to LA for a week to see friends as kind of a prep of the move, right?
Yeah.
And like,
Yeah.
I wanted to go to different neighborhoods. I wanted to talk to friends who have lived out there for a while and friends who have recently moved out there.
Yeah.
And in talking to her, she was like, oh my gosh, don't worry about where you're going to stay. Like, stay with me.
Yeah.
So I stayed with her for the week, and it was wonderful. It was absolutely great. And my trip itself to LA was fantastic. I have not felt so Claire
Yeah.
in so long. Like, I felt creative. I felt inspired. I felt confident in my body. I felt beautiful. I felt smart, funny. Like, it was like all of the things. I felt so good. And like seeing so many of these friends of varying closeness.
Yeah.
And it really felt right. It felt so good.
Mm-hmm.
The unfortunate thing is that in this Claire living her best life and really thriving, I pushed maybe some boundaries. I
unknowingly
and not intentionally, that we know this. There was a shift that I felt happen with friend the day before I left. And I thought maybe it was just like I overstayed my welcome, or, like I get that, right?
Yeah.
That's fine.
Yeah. Well, we know how hard of a time I have having people.
It's hard.
Space.
Yeah. I stayed with her for a week.
I'm not good.
So,
yeah,
but
I would kill you. I would kill anyone.
Yeah. Thankfully, I had plans, but I wasn't fully busy.
No, and you were fully invited to do that, right? It was
right.
So,
and I even remember saying 2 days. Yeah, 2 days before I went, I said, "Listen, I am getting nervous. I'm nervous that you're going to be so annoyed with me." She said, "I'm not worried about you."
Yeah.
So it was like I had a car. She gave me a set of keys. I had plans. She was always invited. She didn't join, but it was like, it wasn't like I was hanging out with her fully for the week. But all that to say, I might have been too comfortable talking about my old crush and talking about it in a way that I'm comfortable with, but maybe without too much regard to how she was receiving it. Because I've processed and sat with it so much.
Right. And you like to make jokes and you want to make it,
I love to make jokes.
It's so funny when we're like, let's make something not weird. Let's prove that I'm okay with it, to the point where we make it weird.
Too much. So all of this to say, 2 days after I left, I hadn't heard, like I had sent her a couple, just like updates, whatever. And she sent me a text 2 days later and said that she needs to step away. She doesn't think it's a healthy dynamic, and she has to step away or take a break for a bit.
Yeah.
She did say that she listened to the podcast, which I feel like I'm never saying anything on here that I haven't said to her, but I think maybe the intensity of it, and maybe like maybe I didn't fully explain how fucking crazy I went there for a couple days, you know? And so
Yeah.
hearing that and hearing whatever.
Oh my God, I felt like I was in trouble. I'm like, did I do something wrong? Like, that was
No,
such a,
I
like,
know.
what did we say?
It's like I try to be so honest, and it helps me. I'm not tearing up. Stop pointing.
No, don't.
Um I
Uh-oh, did Claire cry first?
girl,
I
you
must
know.
be high.
You must be high. But something that I really love to do, and I feel like it is something that is received well, and I think it is something that I am supposed to be doing, and
Mhm.
that is sharing
And you're doing it beautifully.
and being honest about my feelings
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
my pain, my difficulty,
Yeah.
whether it's, I mean, all my faults and whatever.
Mhm.
And because I do feel like if there's anyone that can identify or see, you know, or just be like, okay, well, I'm not that bad, or me too. like that. So I do want to be very vulnerable,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
it helps me too.
And
It
it's
helps me
relatable.
to talk
Oh
it
my God,
through.
it's very relatable.
Yeah. And as someone, like, I feel like it's something I should be doing.
Yeah.
And, but it does get tricky when other people are involved. And I
Yeah.
think
Yeah.
that, um, I try to only speak from my perspective,
Yeah, of
but
course.
that doesn't mean the other person isn't involved.
Yeah.
Or there might be a comment or something about
Yeah.
an opinion, you know, like, so I don't know. Here's the thing. I When I received that text, it gutted me.
Yeah. It's heartbreaking.
It was so heartbreaking.
Yeah.
And I was questioning everything. I was like, what
Mhm.
did I do? What did I, whatever. And it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't, I can't fixate on that. I
Right.
can only assume the frustration because she did mention the podcast. So I feel like
Yeah. Yeah.
that triggered some of it.
Yeah.
Um, I was a zombie for a couple days,
Yeah.
just really hurting,
Mhm.
because there's nothing worse than when you can't have, listen, what did I just say? I need to talk things out. I need to
Yeah.
share things.
Yeah.
And when someone that's so important to you steps away without explanation, it's
Yeah.
terrifying. And
Yeah.
it's hard to grasp, it's hard to understand. It's, as
Mm.
anyone with like a breakup that's out of nowhere, or what, you know, like, I have assumptions, but,
Yeah.
and I also felt a bit, to be frank, disrespected, that there
Mm.
wasn't
A conversation.
a conversation or at
Yeah.
least acknowledgement that, because maybe she just was sick of me for a minute, and I get that's fine.
Yeah. Yeah.
But just to be like, I want to talk about this later, but I just can't right now. I need some time or something, you know, like,
Yeah.
as opposed to like, I'm stepping away. I hope you understand. Done. It was like,
Right.
what? Talk about
Yeah.
untethered.
Yeah.
That
Yeah.
line was fucking cut for me, and I
Yeah.
was free falling, and I
Yeah.
didn't, and it really was terrifying.
Yeah. Yeah. Because you'd come out
I,
of years of codependent relationships
yeah,
with friends, like not even, just with
yeah,
friends,
yeah,
which I think so many, I mean, I discovered a lot of codependency that I still had this year as
yeah,
well. And it really was a way to stay safe. It truly, and when I had that experience where I realized and started letting go of it, untethered is that, like, my nervous system started feeling crazy. Like, it's
yeah,
really interesting when you start to, and I think the beautiful thing about this, right, is I think 2 summers ago, you said to me, you were really like craving for intimacy and,
emotional intimacy.
emotional intimacy. And you felt you
Hmm.
hadn't had it for
I
years
found it.
and you were really craving it. And for better or worse, you created that with someone.
Yeah,
And, you can have that with friends. Like, that's not,
for sure, for
and
sure.
you opened your heart in a way you hadn't in how many years?
Well, in a way, ever, because I've never truly been myself.
And right, because you would come out, completely being, what do you like, what do you want to refer to yourself as these days? Do you talk about being queer or bisexual
Queer, I
or
say queer,
yeah,
because I just fall short of saying lesbian because it's like, I don't know. You know,
right.
like
Yeah,
I
yeah,
think
yeah.
technically it's I'm pansexual, which is just like anyone, because I'm
Yeah.
attracted to non-binary as well. So it's
Yeah,
like,
yeah, yeah.
so I just kind of say queer because
Yeah.
it's
I
relating,
think
but I'm
queer, I can
leaning towards
relate.
women.
I feel like I like queer.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
I
just
find
don't
it
feel,
relatable.
I feel like almost, yeah, I'm more attracted and leaning into to women or non-binary, um,
Hmm.
more than masculine male
Hmm. Hmm.
energy.
But
Masculine
you
women, different.
hadn't come out with that, right? So here you
I
are for the first time, fully embracing that part of you, and then sharing that with another
Yeah,
person very closely.
and I think that that's she. I've been desperate to have a queer ally,
Yeah.
and I found that in her.
Hmm.
And she's such a good. She does not struggle with connection. She's very
Mm.
good at listening and asking
Yeah.
questions and
Yeah.
talking, and she's curious, and I feel like I'm the same.
Yes, you are. You are.
And so it was such, I am so thankful. I feel like she has been
Mm.
such an expander for me this year.
Yes, beautiful. Beautiful.
And it gets confusing,
Hmm.
when
Yeah.
in the queer space,
Yeah.
when you are so, because I feel so connected to her energetically, and I think we
Yeah.
are so similar. We're very
Yeah.
much alike.
Yeah.
Um, and so I think I was just so drawn in like having that connection, having someone that's interested and also questioning stuff. And, like we both held so much space for each other. And she also physically is my type. And so I think I got really confused with, not that I'm questioning the love that I felt, but I think I just got really confused with like, is this my person? But
Yeah.
I had to kind of go through that. And then I projected my own body issues onto her
Yeah.
because I
Yeah.
think, when you start to like someone and you're like, well, why would they not like me? Right? You
Right.
try to
Right. Right. Right.
prepare
Right.
for rejection. And it's hard to, when you're so close with someone and you feel
Yeah.
like they love you as a human,
Right.
obviously you're going to pick up your biggest insecurity, which is your body, and project that, right?
Right. Right.
Now,
Right.
granted, maybe she's made comments and things like that, but who hasn't? Like we
Right.
all are somewhat, like
Yeah.
appearances and everything. But
Yeah.
I made that a larger issue than it needed to be,
Yeah.
um, for myself.
Yeah.
But that was an easy way to just cope. And I think I discovered that we were so similar, which I
Hmm.
like myself. So I want to hang out with me, but
I
I
mean,
don't.
same.
Thank you. I know, same. But I don't think that was of interest. But here, the biggest thing is when I was in LA, it became more evident than ever that
Hmm.
she's not my person.
Right.
Like,
Right. 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 You're
like
just different. You're just different. You guys are just different. Yeah.
well, like we're not a relationship pair, but I see
No.
like it became so clear. Like
Yeah.
I was realizing it, but then when I was there, and not for any negative reason, just like, oh no, yeah, no. We're
Yeah. 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 Like we're better
But I still
suited as
felt,
friends.
I almost felt like this was truly one of my best friends. Truly
Yeah.
one of my best
Yeah.
friends. And it seems so juvenile to say best friend, but for
No.
lack of a better term.
Yeah.
Um
I mean, you guys can make bracelets, whatever.
yeah. I'm getting a necklace, the heart split down the middle.
Yeah. I always wanted the street end part, not the beef
That's so
fry.
funny. Beef fry. I think I hit the
Yeah.
beef fry with
I
my
didn't like the
Brent.
beef fry. I wanted the street end part.
That's so funny.
But
But
thanks for
anywho,
remembering.
I mean, all of this to say, I just out of curiosity, well, if anyone is curious, I did reply with a voice note
Yeah.
to her text and was just saying, I understand and I respect your space, like, but I do
Hmm.
hope that we can have a conversation at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um, of course, I was emotional, but how could I not be? So,
Yeah.
um, I had left that voice note, and it's been, over a month and no word. And I also, there is a hole in my heart that's reserved for
Mm-hmm.
her
Mm-hmm.
as a dear friend.
Yeah.
I remember first the first time that we met up. I remember telling old bestie, I said, I don't know, there's something like such a connection with her. I feel like we're going to be in
Mm-hmm.
each other's lives forever.
Yeah.
I said that. And I said, not in a romantic way, not like, but I just
Yeah.
feel like we're going to be in each other's lives.
Mm.
And of course, old bestie was like, all right, stupid. Um, but that's how strong of a connection it just immediately felt. And so,
Yeah. Yeah.
listen, I don't think this is a bad thing that I needed to be shoved away
Yeah.
so that
Yeah.
I really can focus on me
Yeah.
right now and like
Yeah.
see those difficult tendencies that I had, or
Well, because
not
part
difficult,
of
just the
these
codependent.
relationships that your pattern was like the thing that we're getting you out of is like you sort of were sitting on the sidelines of your life
Hmm.
and you are giving these relationships your energy in support of their dream
Correct.
or their
Correct.
what they.
Whatever they needed at the
Yeah,
time.
yeah. And it's funny, I keep bringing this up because of I've gotten kind of obsessed with that guy on TikTok,
Yeah.
Flynn Skidmore. And
Okay.
like
That
I sent
name.
you
Sorry.
that. I know the whole thing, like his whole thing, it makes me cringe a little bit. And then that makes me feel bad for being judgy, but he feels
I know.
like Gen Z there, but I don't know. I was like, oh
No,
God,
but if he's
but that
speaking things that
well, I
you
sent you that
enjoy.
TikTok where
Yeah.
it was called like, should I get back together with my ex? And it basically was talking about, he's like, well, you, whether you should or you shouldn't, it doesn't matter. Like
Yeah.
he has this kind of cool way of looking at, like if you want to be sad and anxious all the time in a relationship, that's what you want. Like, who am I to say that's bad or good? Like, we know it's not great for your
Right.
body and we know most people don't choose that, but like, that's what you want to
If you
consciously
need
choose.
it.
Like, who am I to say anything else? He's
Right.
like, the question is, there are like two types of relationships: the relationships that allow you to be the best version of yourself to serve your purpose. And he kind of goes into like, I believe we all have a purpose. And like when we're living our purpose, we feel the best. And I agree with that
Right.
wholeheartedly. I think and it doesn't have to be something grand, but like if you're doing the thing
Right.
that comes naturally to you, that feels really good, like you're the best version of yourself. And he's like, certain relationships will empower you to do that. And other relationships will take up so much space that you don't, because you're spending all of this time helping this person or trying to, like change
Or
this
just
person.
putting your
And I
energy
went,
towards them.
yeah, and I went on and I was like listening to one of his podcasts and he was talking about how often, and this like really kind of hit me in the face, we try to change people and get like, we have this vision for our life and we try to change people because we want them to create the vision because we're too afraid to do it on our own. So
Wow.
we end up in these relationships with people where we're on the sidelines or we're really supporting them or we're really supporting their growth and pushing them forward because it's
Wow.
really scary to actually step up and do it ourselves. And I just like looked back at a couple of my relationships and even recently and I was like, whoa,
Mm-hmm.
how
Yeah.
insane is this that I know I've done that. And I know you have as well.
Everyone knows I have.
And
Or like,
and then like how much more empathy do you have, right? Because it's
yeah,
not about these people being bad or even like them, you know what I mean? Like there's a point
yeah,
where I put so much energy into like my husband's career and I wanted to blame it on him because he was willing to
I know.
take it.
Yeah,
But in the back of my mind, and now I know I was too afraid
yeah,
of what it meant to really step into what I wanted to do fully. And when I came here, it was the same thing. It was almost like, let me look for someone to put my energy into so I don't have to put it onto me. Because then
right.
I have to decide and I have to be in charge of what kind of life that I have. I have to take
Yeah,
responsibility for that. And so often, it for generations and generations, for better and worse, especially as women, it's modeled for us to support someone else's thing, right?
absolutely. Of
And maybe
course.
that is your purpose and that's beautiful. There's nothing wrong with that. But
Certainly. Certainly.
it's very easy to do that. And then it's like, well, I don't have to break my own heart, or I don't have to put myself out there and get rejected, or I don't have to. So when you look at it that way, it's like, I have so much empathy for all of these relationships you've been in and the choices you've made, because it's just poor little Claire, so afraid of these big dreams that she doesn't want to realize and so afraid to get her heart
Yeah.
broken.
And I think so much of first of all, I think before with my ex bestie, um, two things. I didn't have enough confidence in my own dreams
Mm-hmm.
to
Mm-hmm.
pursue solo.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I was very
Yeah.
excited about that. But then I put all of my success and my growth dependent on that. And
Yeah.
then I
Yeah.
also, in which started to show up again with capital F friend, was being like thinking that love is expressed with how much you need me, how much I can do for
Yeah.
you,
Oh, I
how
know
much you
about
can
that.
become
Yeah.
dependent on me.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so you make yourself like so useful and
Indispensable.
so
Oh, yeah.
helpful,
Yes.
indispensable.
Yeah.
And then it all of a sudden you realize, oh, they don't need you. You're just doing all this stuff because you're trying to like show love or crave love or just like again avoiding your own life too.
Yeah. Yeah. Get
So
validation, right? Here
get
you are
validation.
not living your purpose and your dreams, right? And
Yeah.
being like, but I need to feel okay about myself anyway. How do I still
Yeah.
feel good when I know I'm not fully living up to my potential?
Yeah.
Well, through other people, that can be helpful.
And the very difficult thing, there's a lot of confusing new dynamics with this friendship.
Hmm.
Um, and one of them is like, yes, I did in certain aspects throw myself into being helpful and focused on her and like, what can I
Yeah.
do?
Yeah.
But at the same time, more so than ex bestie, if we want to look at these dynamics, I discovered a lot about myself
Yeah.
through this
Yeah.
relationship with her.
Well, the thing is
Um,
like this was a healthier relationship, I think. Like in terms
absolutely.
of how you were showing up and the balance
Yeah.
of give and take and what I mean, you're growing. So like this
Yeah.
was a better dynamic for you to be in, to be seen, be heard, all of that.
Who I am today, there's a couple of people I have to thank this year for that. And one of them is friend with a capital F. Like
Absolutely.
she really was pivotal in my growth this year.
Yeah.
Whether she was active in it or whether it was just simply the way I was showing up and how I responded. But I
Well,
think she
again,
also was active in it,
absolutely. And relationships
right?
are our biggest teachers, right? So, of
For
course.
sure. For
Of
sure.
course.
And the other is you.
If you
You're
weren't gonna
my
say me,
big
I was gonna be pissed.
pest.
Kidding.
You say my cats. Um
And it was my kitty.
yes.
Also
My
a big
TV.
joke.
I love my TV. It's really helped me. No, you obvious reasons,
Guys, I'm
right?
paying her to say this.
Yes, no. I mean, just your general help, obviously, and holding space for me and
Yeah.
listening
Yeah.
and giving me feedback at varying levels of gentleness to hardness.
I know we got a little harsh this fall.
As needed. We needed it, but you know how to, you know the right time to do that. But I also want to, two things that you really helped me with. First of all, trusting me professionally was very big. To invite me in to help with your mission and your goals has meant so much. Because it's like, I know that, like, I've been so focused on the production stuff and acting and all of that. And I forget about kind of the other side of things that I did for years, like businessy stuff more, or not business, but like marketing and stuff. And while I'm not fantastic at it, you trust and you've given me confidence in my knowledge, in my brain, and in my gut. And I think that that's the other thing that you really helped solidify this year for me, is you want to hear the first thing that comes to mind because you trust that that is right. And I think we are taught for so many of us, like, I don't know, let me think about why this could be wrong. Let me think about,
how can I doubt myself? How can I doubt myself?
Is this something that they want to hear? Is this something, is that stupid? Is that a stupid response? Is that, there's been so many questions before ever fully responding. But like, just thinking of last night, we were voice noting back and forth a little bit. And like, as I was listening to your message, a couple words just kind of came to mind. And I was like, okay, so I responded with those words. And it's like, you have helped me really believe in my gut and my intuition and my knowledge. And I thank you for that. I thank you for that. That is huge.
You're so welcome. And that's, I mean, at the core, that's what I really want everyone to take away, right? Because like, we're the only ones who know, and like, you're the only one truly, like, yes, we need doctors, yes, we need therapists, yes, we need coaches, yes, we need other people. But like, if you want to heal, if you want to grow, if you want to get the life that you want, like, you're the only one. Whoa.
The light just like
the light just shifted onto Claire. Like, she has been chosen by Jesus Christ himself.
This is crazy.
Like, literally, it should be like, oh,
I know.
There's like a halo around you. Meanwhile, it's gotten full dark here. But no, that's really nice to hear, and I feel really grateful to have had you. And it's funny, you kind of did this to yourself, woman.
Yeah.
Because the last 2 falls ago, when she was in my program, she kind of was like, oh, it would be more helpful if like you did this or you did that. And she like would mock up examples of like, made you make some slides for me, or, would just out of the, she was a client, just being helpful and really
which
like
can
giving
be
me.
But what? I felt like you
no.
were...
It was welcome. It was
a welcome.
Yeah. Because you had been working with me for a couple of years,
right.
I was, we'd known each other. So it was, and you knew where I struggle in certain areas, right? There, I'm very good at certain parts of the business, but like running a whole business, there's a lot of different parts to it. And some of it, marketing, not really my strong suit. And it was interesting because you really turned on another part of my brain. And I remember I paid an absurd amount of money for some business coach for like an hour, which I would laugh to have that money right now.
I know. I don't even want to talk about those expenses that I wish I had.
But I paid a very absurd amount of money for this woman to be like, what would make you really excited about your business again? Because I was feeling very stuck. And it was like getting help, like not working alone anymore, which I'm really like more and more this year. That's this theme of this year, is like really branching out. And then honestly, you inspired me because it was so funny when Claire and her creative partner split up, and we really got Claire present to what she wanted. She wanted to start her own podcast. And then she did. And it
Yes.
was great. And she fucking did it. And it was
Yeah.
so funny because, like, the two things I really wanted to do was because I had been on a lot of podcasts. I love them. I love listening to them. I'm a podcast junkie.
Same.
I always wanted to have one, but I thought that was really embarrassing because everyone has one and it's so lame and like who wants to listen to you anyway? Blah 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 blah. And meanwhile, for years, because of my crazy Instagram stories, I did have people being like, "When are you going to start a podcast?" Because I'll just talk and talk. So there were at least like 5 people out there I knew that would listen to it.
Listen, that's all you need.
But it was funny because that was something really quietly. I was like, no, but I really want to bring someone on. So it was a no-brainer to bring you on because of your background, and like you had already started to give me unsolicited help, which was actually welcome, right?
Listen, thank you. As a projector, I love to. I've got my expertise.
Yeah, you really do. You really, really do. And so it was really a relief. I remember the first time, it was so silly. You put together my newsletter and I saw it. I burst into tears. Not because I can't do it. I did. I was at my parents' house. I started crying because it felt really nice not to be doing this alone anymore.
Yeah.
And like, I love what I do so much. I know there are certain parts of it that I'm really, really good at, and the other parts I get really bogged down in. And then just to have someone to bounce ideas off of, or share my fears, or get feedback that like knew my work, that I trusted, that I knew was smart, was really incredible. Like it really, having you as part of my team, especially, God, we've had some ups and downs this year, has been, at one point, like halfway through the year, I'm like, poor Claire. I like basically hired her to watch me cry about stuff on Zoom.
Girl, we do it for each other.
But
Lord.
no, it really has been wonderful to have. And then it was funny because in the beginning of the year, I really was it was almost like your move to LA when you're like, I want to move to LA. And you're like,
I know.
like hiding behind a curtain and telling me. That's like how I told you.
Don't tell anyone.
I was like, I think I want to start a podcast. And you were so encouraging, so great. And you're like, I can do it. I know how to do it. And it was so funny because it didn't even occur to me when I hired you that you could do it, right?
Yeah.
And then a couple months later, I was like, oh, whoa, oh no, oh. And like this truly, when you talk about highlights, has been probably one of the biggest highlights of my year, because you empowered me to fulfill a dream, however lame this dream is, and we can all judge it. That's fine.
Don't you dare say that. Don't you dare. It's not lame. It's great.
And it allowed me to sort of, it's funny when we interviewed Erin Claire Jones, and that's going to come out in the beginning of the year. And she's so great. And I had a one-on-one session with her like a year or two ago. And she was like, there is something about your design where like talking, especially like freehand, like just not planning, saying things, is really, really good for you, your brand, your business, for you to continue to evolve what you're doing. So give yourself opportunities to speak. So, and it has been, she was absolutely right. It's been really transformative, and it's connected me to people that have expanded me. I mean, that podcast with Jack was like a really big pivotal moment that made me realize Dr. Jack's podcast, it validated me on so many levels in terms of the work that I've done and how far I've come, and like being in wellness for like 10 years, because someone like him was doing this crazy research that works with like, incredible people doing research all over the world, helping people, like fancy, important people. We're on the same page, and like we can chat about stuff. And I was like so excited about that. And that really made me start to think about joining, his companies like his.
Absolutely.
I'd never wanted to work with other people in this capacity. So the podcast and you helping facilitate that is allowing me to evolve and realize some dreams I didn't know I had, helping me to find a voice. And then, I know we don't have millions of listeners, but I've gotten some really beautiful feedback from the 5 people who are listening. And this is for you guys. Oh my God, I can't. The last Claire and Lianna update, my mom, because they've been traveling, let's see what time my mom listened to it. And she was like joking that she and my dad listened to it. My dad was like, So are you and I and Claire's parents the only one that listened to this? Well, I think he
Eh,
goes, I think it literally was, and this is like, so my mom, is it us and Claire's mom that listens to this? And mom's like, Claire's mom's dead. So basically it's like,
exactly.
oh, it's just like us that listen to it.
Yeah, it's just you. Because my dad
Like,
certainly doesn't know how to listen. So, which is fine. That's fine if he doesn't. Mm-mm.
I know. I was like, thanks, guys. Feel real support. No, they're kidding. But
Yeah.
truly, it's been really, this has been one of my major highlights. But before I go into my highlights, is there anything, the light on your face is really beautiful.
Isn't it
And I
insane?
do feel as though you are being chosen by God.
I know. There's a lovely this time of year.
I
I
feel like,
get
did you
this.
ever watch Seventh Heaven?
No, but I'm familiar.
I don't know. This feels like you should be having like a Reverend so it's Jessica Biel, and
Right?
I don't know. I don't know where I'm going with this,
I
but
look just like Jessica Biel. Thank you
you
for
do.
saying
You
that.
really do.
I'll step like it. There's just a lovely. This is the joy of apartment living because the light just reflects on a window across the way.
Oh yeah, it
Um,
shines right inside.
right.
Um,
I
yeah,
think the to close out my
yeah, yeah,
review.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Please, the year in review.
Um, I I learned so much. I expanded so much. The biggest takeaway, which sounds
Hmm.
so simple and so cheesy,
Hmm.
but being me,
Mm.
being me untethered to other people, including my mom,
Yeah. Finally.
including is
Mm.
a okay.
Yeah.
And
You can handle it.
honestly, great. Like continuing, I lived through these shoulds, and I've always identified as very independent and whatever, but
Hmm.
I didn't truly understand how connected I was still
Yeah.
to my mom and to the way I thought it should be and the way I thought others should see, the way I
Yeah.
wanted to be perceived.
Yeah.
And this year, I feel like I truly have cut so many of those fucking tethers. Um, and
Woo!
so now that I have cut, the next step is action.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And so that is the word for 2024. But we're not
Action.
going into future
No,
predictions. We're
no, we'll do
just
that. We'll do that next month.
stating.
We'll do that next
Yeah.
month.
I
Um,
shook off one more thing. Sorry, now shut up. Not apologizing. When we were talking the other day, I said I feel like a hermit crab
yeah,
where I've been somewhat attached to my old shell,
yeah,
and I've
very
been
much so.
trying to shake it.
Hmm.
And finally this year I've shook
Shaking it
off
loose.
sure the old shell. And
Yeah.
right now I feel very vulnerable because I'm without a
Mm.
home.
She's naked, guys. She's a naked crab.
I'm naked. Listen, I'll go to a naked dinner. I'll go anywhere naked. Um, but
So many things I love about that.
uh, thank you so much. I see my new shell in LA,
Hmm.
but it's going to take a little bit before I can move in. But
Yeah,
I at least I had to get rid of the old shell
yeah,
before I can make my way over there. And
yeah,
that's where I feel like I am.
yeah. Well, I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
I've, and I'm very grateful for you because you have been a tether in my life,
You know I love
a
it.
positive one, and
Mhm.
kept me very sane through some insane moments,
Yeah.
and been such a support system. And to watch you, it's been hard, and having to push you a little bit is not. I don't love that when I have to do that to people I
Yeah.
care about. Um, but you were ready, and you are ready, and I can't wait to see what happens next year because you finally are like stepping into your life and
Yeah.
back on the field. I
Yeah.
love that I like want to make car and sport metaphors like I know anything about either, which I do
Listen,
not.
I don't, but if you say something
I'm
with
like, you're stepping onto
confidence.
the plate. I keep wanting to say that. I'm like,
Okay.
okay,
Sure.
baseball, sure.
Surely.
But yeah, it's gonna be a ride, but I think it's gonna be a really good one.
Yeah. I believe that it is.
Yeah, yeah.
And obviously I thank you for it.
Oh, well, it's my pleasure. And I do think we all just kind of the I don't know, it's interesting. The more I surrender and just kind of go with the flow of life, listen to myself, put intention out there and go. I think people come and go in and out of your life at these beautiful moments and support you
Mhm.
and teach you and push you. And
Yeah.
it's funny because I remember the first time I met you. It was on a shoot for the New
Oh,
Yorker with
yeah.
Jesse and
Tracy.
Tracy were directing, had written and directed it. And I
Hmm.
just thought it was so cool because it was funny and like we always got the New Yorker magazine, but it was like
Right.
a Shouts and Murmurs online or something.
Yeah. Yeah.
And you were the teacher,
Yeah.
and I remember because we watched
Professor.
Professor,
Thank you.
and I remember watching you and being like, "Who is she? She's so funny. She's so
Oh,
powerful." And I think I have these moments in life sometimes where like, and we didn't, we were like not friends, but like we didn't know each other very well.
right. 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 Yeah.
And I think we maybe had dinner once at Jesse's birthday or something.
Right.
But like
Right.
I was very peripherally in your life to look then and to see the role you play or we each play in each other. I just always find it so
Isn't
fascinating,
that weird?
right?
Yeah. I
I
know.
know. I think it's really funny to look at. And it's like funny to be like, well, had any idea then, like what we would be like
I know.
experiencing like 8 years later, or whatever that was. Like that's so
Crazy.
right, right. But yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
For this has been, I think, truly the hardest year of my life.
Yeah.
And I I've never been more proud of myself.
As you should
And
be.
yeah, never been more proud of what I've done. And it's interesting because I was doing a reflection exercise where I looked at sort of where I was at the end of last year and what I wanted to create and the list of things that I wanted. And it was so funny because the big ones were all there and were
Okay.
there in the way that I wanted them to show up. Community was
Good.
really important to me, sort of like an effortless ease into Portugal and an apartment and a visa, and those two were
Mm.
like the biggest, and that happened, and so much didn't, and so
Yeah.
much went in the entire opposite direction, and like crashed and burned in a real like large dumpster fire of a way.
Right. Right.
And when I first looked at that, I felt really judgy of that, of myself, of I love to make a story about my age and where I am and what a failure I am and how
Mm-mm.
disappointing I am. And
No.
then, in this reflection exercise, they're like, what happened that was unexpected? And like, what kind of stuff did you like go? And I really sat and I was like, whoa, this in the past couple of months faced my biggest fears head on that I've
Yeah.
had my entire life and dove right into healing them. And I became aware of patterns and habits. And really, it's sad to say, but I got to a point a couple of months ago where I realized my entire personality was based a bit on trauma. And here I thought I was this really nice person who like gave a lot and who just always wanted to help. And I had this
Yeah.
moment of like, oh, this is like a people pleasing trauma response.
Right.
And in that, I started to unravel all of my codependency. And I know I talked about this in the last podcast where it was like, for
Hmm.
the first time, I realized, what it would be like to give myself energy first and to prioritize myself because I've never done that. Like I've had so much fear around I just lack of wholeness and a lack of I really didn't believe in my ability to take care of myself or be alone or anything. Even though I like to spend a lot of
Yeah.
time alone and like that probably sounds crazy because I moved to another country by myself where I knew like five
Yeah.
people. But like
Right.
it's so interesting to understand like relational dynamics And once I started to let go of that, I realized like what I was starting to finally cultivate was wholeness. And
Yeah.
and through a lot of my practices, especially, the past couple of years with meditation, I've really changed my relationship to my nervous system. And I had this really profound experience like a month and a half ago or so, where I really felt a piece of this old version of me die, for lack of a better word.
Yeah.
And it was,
Yeah.
I mean, you witnessed it,
I
and we were
witnessed.
both
Yeah.
crying.
Woo.
And it was a really interesting and intense situation that
Yeah.
allowed me to let go of that part of myself. And I still sort of have grief around it because I liked who that person was. But
Yeah.
in its place was just this profound sense of like peace and trust and I think we do the work we do because we need it, right? And so much of
Yeah.
what I do is like connecting people themselves and getting them to trust themselves and to listen and to be brave and in sitting with sort of the darkest parts of myself and facing them and moving through the experience of the pain and looking at the ugly parts of you, right?
Yeah.
I was able to let go of some really bad habits, and I feel like the most whole integrated version of myself I've ever been. And that's still
Yeah.
like, I still feel like I have so much work to do because when does it ever end,
Well, of
right?
course, but both
But
things can be true.
yeah, it was really an interesting, but I don't think I've cried ever, so much. I got my heart broken in the most interesting way,
Yeah.
by I swear it was like as soon as I got here, it was like the people that were coming into my life were so like I've met two people this year that I've never felt more familiar, in different ways too, that have
Yeah.
taught me so much about myself. But it's really interesting because it almost felt like these two versions, this old version of me and this new version of me, and this old version of me that was very fear-based and anxious. And like,
Yeah.
one of those relationships really highlighted that, right? And allowed me to get very like to go back in these really experiencing a lot of like almost early childhood fear and anxiety
Yeah.
that I got to heal. And like it was such a gift. It was so uncomfortable. And
Oof.
then this other was like this beautiful version of who I am and am becoming. And it was just has been such a space of unconditional love and has taught me so much about myself and how much I didn't maybe feel deserving of that always, and
Yeah.
how having someone just be there for you emotionally, physically, like all in all the ways. I don't think I quite experienced it in that, the way I've been experiencing it the past couple of months.
Yeah.
And it was almost overwhelming to experience that amount of like love and safety from another person. And
Absolutely.
I don't know where I would have been without that support, considering like a lot of the inner work I was doing. And it
Hmm.
just seems really wild to it feels so random, right? Like who comes into our life and who teaches us things and yeah, I think the biggest lessons I really got were well, I faced the stuff I think a lot of the stuff I've been running away from in terms
Yeah.
of taking full responsibility for myself and looking at certain I think we both did certain ways we bury our head in the sand and be like, you do it, or
Yeah.
I don't want to look over there, right? Like fully sat in the fullest version of who I was, warts and all, and
Yeah.
allowed myself to let go of stuff that wasn't working and process stuff that was really painful.
Yeah.
And I've gotten to I don't think I've ever worked so hard, oh my God, or cried so much. Like it was I had a panic
You've been
attack
through it.
this fall for
Yeah.
the first time in years. Like
Yeah.
I felt pain. I sat with and felt pain to a degree I don't think I was afraid to. And in that, and I mean, one of the biggest lessons I feel like I learned over and over again, and I see that with people, like the more willing you are, or the more willingness you have to like face your trauma and sit with your pain and your fear,
Mhm.
the bigger and more beautiful your life becomes, because the most of the time we don't do things just because we're afraid, right? So
Yes.
the more willing
Yes.
you are to endure, and it's mostly emotional pain. I'm not afraid I'm going to get stabbed all the time. Thank goodness,
Right,
And
right, right.
obviously
I
we've seen in
mean,
the world,
there's
this
that.
has been a very heavy year, especially in the last couple of months with
Such a heavy
what's
year.
going on in the world. And that's not something to take lightly. You
Literal
know what I mean?
violence, yeah.
Right. Like extreme violence and
Mhm.
horror, just horrific things. Luckily, that's not my reality. And
Right.
the more you're willing to face that stuff, the bigger your life becomes, the braver you are. And the braver you are, the more beautiful your life becomes. And it's just been interesting to just reflect on, like, I feel like I've lived 10 lifetimes in this year.
Phew.
And the versions of me that I've like peeled away, and
Yeah.
like what I've turned into is a very different person than when I moved here. And I feel excited about that, and like the
A
opportunities
beautiful
that are starting to
elevated
come.
you.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Yeah,
The opportunities that are starting to show up,
absolutely.
what they're just, it's really interesting. And in that too, like, what, circling back to what I was saying about that Flynn Skidmore thing, about how I've definitely chosen a lot of relationships where I got to be a cheerleader and I
Mhm.
got to be in the back seat, and I didn't have to
Mhm.
fully step into everything I want to do or feel called to do.
Yeah.
And this year I really realized I can't do that anymore if I want to be happy and whole. And it
Yeah.
doesn't have to be big, right? It could be this.
No.
But
No.
you cannot sit in the back seat of your life, and I think we both really really learned that. And and the and I had this wild experience, and I'm sure I talked about it a little bit on the podcast, with my shaman that I met in the beginning of the year, where I had
Maybe.
that
Oh,
really
yeah.
beautiful
Yeah.
meditative experience where she really
The
guided
bowl.
me into this place. Even that post bowl, it wasn't even the bowl breaking
Yeah, yeah.
experience. That was
Yeah.
also so crazy.
Oh, that's different. Okay.
No, no, it was a different, and we did this meditation,
Mhm.
and I got to this, the most beautiful sort of blissed out space that I've ever felt, times a million. Like, more joyful than any time I've fallen in love or had the best orgasm or the best piece of chocolate
Yeah.
cake or laughed the hardest. It was incredibly beautiful. And I remember in that moment thinking, this is why people go into caves and meditate for the rest of their lives, because like this
Right.
is only accessed within us. And I remember the message that I got over and over again from that experience was, it's all within us. Everything that we are all looking for is found within us. Do not go outside. It will not be there. You are the thing you want to create, you have. And
You just have to be willing to actually go in and find it
yes, and face it and feel it and
and
sit
face
with
it.
it. And it's often on the other side of that fear and the
Mhm.
pain. And it's just really, that's been really loud for me at the end of the year, as I think about what my year has looked at and looked like, and the bravery I've had, and like the beautiful community I've cultivated, and the heartbreak I've experienced,
Yeah.
and what that's taught me, and what that's shown me, and the change. And there's so many things that I felt like, even with like work, that were like, oh, this is just how things are, and everything changed so drastically that it really made me dig deep. And in
Mhm.
that, I've gotten to this place where I feel like, from that experience that did feel like a death almost,
Yeah.
I feel profoundly different. And I think it was just like a resetting of my nervous system, if we want to be very like
Yeah.
human about it, right?
Right.
But I remember I slept for like a week. I didn't get out of bed for almost a week after that. And
Mm-mm.
food tastes different. Alcohol and caffeine feel different in my body. My digestion
Yeah.
has changed. The way I feel in my body is completely different, because it felt like I turned down my nervous system. And that's
Mm.
really wild, because I've really spent a
Yeah.
couple of years really working on that, right? And I was like, oh
Mm-hmm.
wow, I didn't mean for this to happen.
Well, you
um
worked so hard to be so in tune, which you've always,
yeah,
been in tune, but it's like you
yeah,
really were getting there, and then
yeah,
so that you could shut that part off and
right, where I could let go of, because the part of
reset.
me that was run by fear and pain. And I think
Yeah.
you see that so many of us are, right, because of things that happen and we don't even realize. And because our personalities are often formed through things that happened to us in our childhood,
Yeah.
it's who you are. And it's no one's fault. It's just the building blocks, your kid brain, this experience means this. And I,
Right.
I got attention when I made people laugh. Like, I remember the first moment I was in, such a shy kid, but in second grade, we're having a pizza party and I made a joke and the whole class laughed. And
Ooh,
I just remember that moment of
that
being
sticks
like,
with you.
okay, this
I want
works,
that again.
right? Right. And I
Yeah.
remember I had, in that same year too, I remember my best friend was really easygoing and she never got
Hmm.
upset about anything. And she was always like, I don't care, I don't care. And everyone liked her. And I was like, noted. Don't have any needs.
Noted.
Right. So at like,
Yeah.
how old are you? 7? Like, I remember these moments at 7. It was like, okay, have no needs and be funny. Cool.
And be
Right.
funny.
I'm like, that
Yeah.
stuff.
What just happened? That's the funniest thing I've ever seen. What happens with you? Okay, FYI, all
Something
of a sudden
ever
balloons.
ever since we've had weird technology things happen ever
Oh
since the
my
death
gosh.
also. But yeah,
It's so
balloons
crazy.
just came out of nowhere on the screen through Riverside, which is what we
That
recorded
was
on.
so bizarre. That was so
And I
bizarre.
just
Okay,
made
sorry.
I made a peace sign and I did it again. It's not happening. Oh, there it is.
There we go. So the peace sign made these virtual balloons fly up.
But
Okay.
one
Listen,
day I was telling Claire and I were FaceTiming and I did something and all these hearts went everywhere. And we both
I
got
think you did
freaked out.
this. You
Yeah,
like made a heart with your two hands, but
but
you
we
weren't
never
paying
seen that.
attention. You
No.
were looking off when you did that, and then all of a sudden it was like this flood of hearts that just like went up on the screen, and then you caught the tail end of
And it
it,
looked like
and
something
it looked
red and scary. It was above my head, and Claire's face was really
it was
big. And
so
I was
funny.
like, is there a ghost in here?
What's happening? Sorry,
Oh my God. I don't
sidetrack,
even
but
remember. I don't know. So something weird's happening with
I
technology.
know with the technology between the light coming in
Oh my gosh.
on the
The balloons.
window, my brain's starting to shut down. I Your nervous system
Oh, yeah.
and the resetting and the God, it's so
And
fascinating to look back at this year.
yeah. Yeah. No, I feel grateful. I mean, moving to Portugal has been amazing. I've cultivated really incredible community. I've been traveled to places I'd never been. I mean, I've had so many great experiences. I've learned so much about myself, about my body.
Yeah.
I've cultivated some really just beautiful relationships. And yeah, I feel like dark night of the soul type of year for me. And it
Wow.
really,
Yeah.
when I look back too, is like I had so much change. And, I left a 10-year relationship in 2019 that fully ended at the beginning of 2019, that fully ended at the end. I moved to LA. I lasted 4 months because of the pandemic. I went back to Maine. I did some real fun inner child healing at my home with my
Yeah.
parents. Uh,
But
Unintentionally, I moved to England. I, spent a couple years in a relationship in England. Then I left. Then I was a digital nomad last year because I didn't know where I wanted to be. And then I finally landed here. So some parts of me realized that like I don't think I fully landed and grasped the reality of all of the changes that I had made in those 4 years until now, which I think everything sort of
very
piled
recent.
on. Yeah, like
Yeah.
everything really hit me very hard. But
Hmm.
I do feel stronger than ever and I feel more whole than I ever have. And I truly believe that, so much of your external life is a reflection of your internal life. Like we see
Yeah.
life as not as it is, but as we are. And I think
Say that again.
we see life not how it is, but as we are.
As we are. Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So
Interesting.
through the
Yeah.
lens, half full, half empty, right?
Right.
It's a teacher or we're a victim, right? This breakup taught me something or it crushed my soul. Like whatever
Yeah.
perspective you want to bring back and forth, like that is entirely up to you. And I totally lost my train of thought because we probably should wrap this up soon.
I said, say it again. Play it again, Sam.
I
But
know. It must not be that interesting. Maybe that's the universe being like, Lianna, just blah, blah, blah. Stop it.
I know.
No, I know what I was saying. I do also feel that like you have to change internally if you want your external circumstances to change, right? It's much faster
Yes.
if you do that,
Yes.
right? And when I was reflecting on the year, it was amazing how much it was like, whoa, my life really changed drastically next year, because this year I feel like I've rewired my literal nervous system.
Yeah.
And let go of so much and created wholeness and tried amazing new things and cultivated amazing new relationships and stepped into my own in this way that I never have. Like, I'm so excited to see what's next. And like, I don't know. It was funny. This is embarrassing. I started this year. I shouldn't even say this. I started this year, you guys. It's not good. It's not cute. It's not a cute moment. Like the second half of last year was rough. And like the end of the year ended really, really rough emotionally for me. I came out of like, I just had to deal with some stuff in LA, closing out that chapter of my life. I had a relationship thing that was really, really bad. And I just ended last December. I was like in a puddle, like in an Airbnb. I saw like a memory of it, like on Facebook randomly. Of like, remember I was in that Airbnb full of it was like that makespace, all those green make space bags from wall to wall, just going through bits and pieces of my old life after I'd like seen my ex-husband and he's dating this amazing woman. And I just like burst out, just like, I thought I was over this, and was like crying in like my wedding gifts and photos that I hadn't even thought about in years. And I remember you and I was like, it's gonna get better. We're going up from here. And oh my God, this is so embarrassing. But I end up New Year's Eve, it's so low key. I'm going to not really go out. Like I'm having dinner with my mom and dad and our neighbors. And I was going to go to a party with one of my childhood friends, but I was driving. And so I wasn't really going to drink anything. So I microdosed on like a tiny bit of psilocybin. And I did that before dinner, which was probably not the right move because then I wasn't really hungry. Right. And then while at dinner, I get a text from my friend that she's not feeling well. She doesn't want to go to the party. So we decide, like all of us, to go to this really local, cute restaurant that's like right around the corner that my childhood friend opened during the pandemic, and just have a drink there. And I was like a little bummed that.
And you were back in Maine.
So I was in Maine. And I, of course, because now it's like 9:30 and like they're kind of closing down, and my friend runs the bar and it's like a cute little restaurant and no one's really there. My parents go home, my neighbor goes home, and I just continue to drink Lambrusco and tequila until the new year on an empty stomach with like a tiny bit of mushrooms in my stomach, which you guys never do that. Not a good mixture.
No.
Anyway, needless to say, I woke up in a really, really disastrous state, feeling really disgusting, having thrown up all of the things. And I was like laughing that, it can only go up from here. And I was like, this new year is going to be amazing. It's a new chapter. I'm moving to Portugal. I wake up totally disgusting, being like, well, it's only up from here. And I don't know if I think life was like, ha.
Well, I think what's interesting is because if we recall, the first half of your time in Lisbon has been spring break Lianna.
That's true.
So it really did set a tone.
It did set a tone. I've had more wine this year and alcohol probably since in the last like 10 years combined. It feels like I had
Yeah.
so much fun when I first got here because I was
Yeah.
so starved for community. I hadn't had my own
Absolutely.
space. I was so excited. It was Portugal in the summer.
Getting out there.
But I also think I was just avoiding everything I was afraid of,
Well,
right?
that too.
And I
Right.
threw myself into a relationship where it was really easy that, they were one of those lovely people that offers to take all of your energy and time. And I was
Absolutely.
happy to give it, happy to
Which
pour
I
all
think is
that to someone
very
else.
interesting that two of your relationships, and we don't have to go into it too much, but I feel like that relationship was very much old you.
Yes.
And then the other one is the new you.
Yeah, I agree. And it's like, do you
Very
want to
much
be
so.
healthy or unhealthy? What's the choice?
Yeah.
But I don't think that, and I think I'm still, and this is why, it's been a slow burn, and I feel very hesitant to jump into anything too seriously because I'm still learning how to actually be in a relationship that's healthy, that isn't me just over giving and like needing
Girl.
them to keep, because I realized so many of my relationships were, I just was craving safety, and I
Yeah.
don't know how to show up whole and have my own boundaries and not just like melt into this other person or get like very like almost like addicted to them, right?
Yeah.
And I wouldn't be in the position to even be looking at myself and exploring these new dynamics if it weren't for the relationship I had earlier this year. And I feel really
Absolutely.
grateful for the shit show that was.
Yeah. And not to say that it was bad. It's just, it's interesting, again, how we show up.
I mean, it was really hard at the end. It was not
It was
fun.
really fucking
It
hard.
was not fun.
Well, not even at the end.
I know that's
For
true.
months.
I guess the whole time you're the
I
one
wish
being
it
like,
was
"Is
so
this a good
simple.
idea?"
I
Is
wish
this
it
a
was so
good
simple to
idea?
say it was hard at the end.
Yeah, you're
Not
like,
so simple.
you're crazy this whole time. This is not the best version of
It's like,
you.
listen, when you're outside of it, as you know.
Yes, thank you. No,
It's like,
I do
but
need that
you
reflection. You're like,
gotta
it was precarious the entire time. It was.
the entire time. But we gotta go on that journey.
There was a lesson that needed to be learned, and I
Yeah.
would not be here if it weren't for that.
No.
And man, I never want to do anything like that ever again. It was funny though, because I feel like that relationship and what I ended up with in last year, it was like more toxic in terms of dynamics, not necessarily people, than I had been in a really long time. I'm like, yeah, wait till you turn like 39 and 40 to like really give yourself some relationship drama. Like what?
Or 46, as it is with me. Jesus Christ.
Oh, I guess we learn at the pace we need to learn, and we cannot judge it, and it is all beautiful.
At the pace we need to learn.
But okay, as before we wrap this up, off the top of your head, what maybe was the funniest or like most lighthearted or beautiful moment that you can think of this year?
First of all, I just want to let you know that I was thinking around the same question to ask you. I know. Just FYI.
Yes.
I think something that I was really a friend of mine, Tim, my friend who we know through the comedy world.
Mm-hmm.
One of my favorite things that we do, which is so silly and it's not like meaningful or whatever, but he loves old stupid movies. And so there have been a few times that it has just filled my soul and my spirit where I'll go over to his place and maybe we have a little edible, maybe we have a little bit of wine, and we watch some old stupid movie and laugh our faces off. Those moments have been so special and so needed, because I was thinking the other day, I was like, God, it's been a long time since I've really I love the chill, like being at home and laughing and playing games or whatever. And I just don't have that here.
Mm-hmm.
And so having that, Tim has been a great relief in that way.
Yeah.
Of just laughing and being silly and stupid, and we need that side of us. We need to be able, because it has been such a heavy, intense year that my sanity has been saved from absurdity.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know,
That's
and
beautiful.
silliness.
Yeah.
So,
I
like one video we watched this one movie, and I was like, God, this seems so familiar. And the more we kept watching it, the more I realized that I owned the VHS growing up. And it made no sense. I was like, do you not know this song? Like, I knew every single word. He was like, what is wrong with you? And I was like, by the end of the movie, I was like, oh, I can fully see my handwriting on the side of the VHS of like, I had recorded it. It
Oh.
makes no sense. But it was just like, what? Again, long COVID, my memory. But
Yeah.
but still, it was just so silly, so fun. And you got to remember to, because especially being in comedy, it's like it becomes a bit of a job. And so
Right.
it's nice to have those moments where it is, you're just releasing yourself to it.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
what
I
about
was
you?
trying to think of a specific moment, but you made me, I don't know, I feel like I met someone this year and I've never felt more familiar or connected or similar to this person. It's like such soulmate energy, and it was like I met her, it was like instant, like I've known you my whole life. And the
That's the
amount
way it felt with
of
friend, big F. Mm-hmm.
um and the amount of silliness and
Yes.
laughter that is just like
Uh-huh.
reflected because we're so similar, like the amount of just giggling and laying
Yeah.
around watching TikTok videos and
Yes.
laughing at this, like she has this amazing couch, but like there are two parts of it and it needs to be
Uh-huh.
bolted together, but it isn't. And if you sit in the wrong area, like the amount of time I spent falling in the hole
Oh
of
my God.
her couch,
I'm
laughing
obsessed with
about
that.
silly TikTok videos. And we realized that, um, beige flags were a thing this year, right? And
Oh, beige flag. Okay.
yeah, beige
Yeah.
flags, like not green flags, not red flags, just beige flags, like the weird things that you do. And we discovered my beige flag is, and it doesn't have to be drinking, it could be sober. But if I'm in a
Mm-hmm.
space that has like a lot of extra room for activities, like a really big hotel room or like a
Right.
really big living room and there's like a carpet, I want to do headstands. So the amount of times I had like
Excuse
a
me.
handful of margaritas and I'm doing headstands, giggling like crazy
Oh,
on
I love that.
and yeah, I mean, though there have been a lot of tears, there's been so much just silly. I just didn't realize, like, you miss those friends, right? And I feel like I hadn't
Yes.
had someone in my life where it's just like that amount of silly, ridiculous giggling that
Yeah.
it just feels like slumber party energy
Yes.
all the time, and how necessary and great that's been. And being able, I think that, and it's sort of, I was realizing like what essentially we're asking is like, how are you loving through it? Right. And I think
Mm-hmm.
the answer is laughter.
Laughter. Just
Right.
being silly.
And like being a human is so weird and crazy.
Ugh.
And like,
Heavy.
so much of wellness and all of this is about, oh, like sit with your trauma and feel your feelings and cry. We cry all the time. But like we
Ugh.
also, it's so ridiculous. Like we have to be able to make fun of the fact that, like, for better or for worse, every couple of months, you and I just like talk about our bullshit and like let other people listen to it.
Wonderful. I know. It's my
Like,
favorite
how
thing.
obnoxious. I know, I love
Very
it.
masturbatory, but
It's
I
what
love
I'm most grateful
masturbation.
for.
Right.
But
No, but truly,
it,
it's just needed to share,
yeah,
share, and
yeah,
be present and available. Wow, those are just a bunch of words I just
yeah. You just
randomly
put a
said.
bunch of words.
But
We're just putting a bunch of words
because I
out.
was starting in talking about like the podcast, like it's just important to connect and share. And again, like I said before, like being vulnerable and if you can feel less alone, in
Yeah.
some way or feel a little bit better just by listening to, then it's fully worth it.
Yeah.
But bless our friends who help us just laugh and be silly. And
Mm.
we need to make sure we leave and make room for those
Yeah. Yeah.
nights. I
Yeah.
sometimes I'll text him and I'll be like, hey, I need a movie night. Like I
Mhm.
need it. So it's just we need to make sure that we make those nights happen, or those days, or those
Yeah.
headstands, or whatever.
Yeah. 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 Yeah, I am grateful for you. All of my Portugal humans, oh my gosh, the amount of gratitude I have for the amazing people I've met here and how much I have these new friends who have watched me cry more than maybe some of my old friends have ever seen. Like I've put
Right?
up with me being, what
Part
I
of it.
refer to over and over again as bug soup all fall, which is what they talk about, in
Bug
between
soup.
the caterpillar dissolves into that sac before it becomes a butterfly and fully
That's so
dissolves.
funny.
And Martha Beck always calls it bug soup. And
Ugh.
I literally have been bug soup for months and like have all of these people in my life who have been so incredibly loving. And so I just want to say thank you to you all because maybe a couple of you listen. And also,
Yeah.
I want to say thank you to everyone listening, all five
Yeah.
of you, maybe six. Um,
Yes.
because, this has been one of my it's so lame, but this is one of my
No.
biggest dreams, and I really love having this platform, and I love bringing you people that I hope help your life and
Absolutely.
bring pieces
Yeah.
of my journey that I hope make your life easier. Because at the end of the day, all I want to do is create a space where everyone can heal and grow and become the best version of themselves. So, that is why Claire and I are vulnerable, so
Mm-hmm.
you can see that there's someone doing worse than you and talking about it publicly.
Exactly.
Um,
And
I don't know
surviving.
that you're not alone and that it's worth it. And, the highs would not be as high if they weren't for the lows. And yeah, you can do it, guys. You're the
Sure.
ones with the answers. You got to just go
Yeah.
within. If the, my only thing for this year and going to next year is knowing that like, right, it's all inside.
Yeah.
Everything that you want and that you're looking for outside of you is actually something that you can cultivate within. You have all the power.
You have all the power.
I love you guys so much.
Bless.
Thank you. Have a beautiful end to your year. And we will be
You too.
back in January talking about what the heck we're doing.
Yes. Simply can't wait.
All right.
Oh.